Hi, everybody. This is 1000 forcibly removed from his barracks room, and his life was taken from him brutally, brutally. And this was after months of retaliation using UCMJ even. There was other retaliation also and targeting, but they were in collaboration with his chain of command, and they absolutely used UCMJ to retaliate against Richard constantly and severely, um, really mounting to torture 45 days wearing full battle gear in May and June in the desert of El Paso, wearing a mask, with only 4 hours to himself to sleep and bathe. Um, it's just absolutely brutal. 45 days for nothing, for nothing. Okay, they have nothing. He has a sparkling clean record. Um, they absolutely retaliated because he was a whistleblower, which makes this really serious business, really serious, because of course we've been putting our case together for years. Um, we didn't want to rush into um, putting forth a case until we knew what had transpired and who took our son's life, why they took our son's life, where our son's remains are, what they did to our son's remains, who's all responsible. And now with this new designation of the Antifa being the worst type of group, right? The worst type of organization. And there's a lot of talk. Let's make sure everything's right. Make sure that I'm on right. Antifa. Because it's going to have to be us filing cases, not just one case, many, many, many cases, um, against these evildoers. And it has to happen because of the seriousness of this, the absolutely breach of national security. The because with that, so many more people are hurt. And as Texas goes, the United States goes, and as the United States goes, the world goes. So this is very, very serious. I put that up today. It was a quote from Steve Bannon. I don't know where he got it from, but because of our intelligence evidence that we have gotten from Texas, we absolutely can confirm that what he's saying is right, that what his guests are speaking on his channel are right. There is a real problem in Texas, a real problem that needs to be addressed. And of course, President Trump is going to Memphis, which is one of the arteries of El Paso, of the criminal trafficking, because of the FedEx hub there. And of course, we know that the FedEx freight was right beside Dreams Cabaret. We know Dreams Cabaret is a cartel hub, right beside the Texas Department of Transportation, and an empty lot with the tactical move storage units, which are shipping units. Um, we this is no accident that Leilani Hart was getting her mail there, that this is part of the Mormon faction that are tied to the cartel. That has been confirmed. And they're up to no good. They're up to no good there. So the thing is they're tied to Fort Bliss. Okay. And we have, it's been over 6 years since Richard became a whistleblower. And the commanding officers there, the commanding officer, but at the time, you had Major General Clem Coward. He is uh, well, he was 32nd ADCOM. Um, he's so guilty, y'all, of so many things. Um, and once this designation goes through of Antifa being a major T organization, really just absolutely criminal organization, um, it will really change everything legally. And so we are grateful that we've been patient because legally things have worked in our favor in order to get Richard's remains back and to get accountability. They've worked in our favor that way. Because just think of 5 years ago and all the attacks that we've got, and those attacks can be connected to the command, um, General Garrett. It can be connected back to General Garrett, who was the commander not just for Fort Bliss, but for he was the FORSCOM commander, four-star general of Fort Bliss and Fort Hood. That's you're talking about Vanessa Guillen there, that case, right? With Richard's case at the same time, with many other Austin Hawk and well, I don't know if Austin Hawk was Fort Hood. No, Austin Hawk wasn't Fort Hood, but I mean, that was just such a brutal case. Um, but Elder Fernandez, absolutely Fort Hood. And so, the point is that this general absolutely aided and abetted cartel. It's going to, and President Trump has even um, warned us that this is going to be really big to clean this mess up. You're going to see people that you would never ever expect. It's kind of like I just watched a video of Tyler Robinson. He was stopped by the police. This is a body cam footage of him years ago when he was stopped, a few years ago, I think 2 years ago, when he was stopped by the police. I should post that up. It is really interesting to watch that body cam footage of him. Because one thing, uh, this is absolutely what it confirms to us is that this is an organization. This is not a lone shooter. This is not a lone operation. I should say it's not a lone operation. We know for sure in the Walmart mass shooting, it's not a lone operation. Thank you, Laura, for coming on. Thank you. Yes, it's a huge problem. Yes, they are tied. Yes. To the El Paso school district too, right? They are tied to the El Paso's. They're tied to the school districts and the busing in of Mexican nationals into El Paso. We haven't forgotten that. This is absolutely an organization. It's a Mormon faction led. It's tied to cartel. It's tied to foreign and domestic enemy groups. We know Nadal Baim is a Palestinian arms dealer. It's tied with him. It's tied with his group. So, whatever you want to say about what's going on with Palestine and Israel, it just doesn't matter because in this case, in our son's case, the ones that are up to no good are the Palestinian arms dealer, right? And the politicians cover up of him, the um, the command, Sean Bernabe, 3-star general, his cover up of Nadal Baim, aiding and abetting a terrorist organization, really, because he is connected with the cartel. It's not that he's Palestinian, he's connected to the cartel. And those that targeted Richard and to Richard's command. He's a very big player in all of this. And I don't know if I was allowed to say that, but that is confirmed information. That's not me over exaggerating. That is absolutely confirmed information with Willie Moya and Arturo Alba and everything that they were doing there at the border. And it gets very, very ugly, y'all. It gets so ugly. And I don't even like to talk about how ugly it gets. I just post it up and I don't like to talk about it because we need to focus on the good things that are happening to move forward, to change our country um, for the better by getting rid of this ugly stuff. Okay. So when President Trump calls them monsters, he's being very nice. Okay. Because they are worse than monsters. What they do. And, nothing is below them. Okay. Nothing is, they're just monsters. Nothing is below. They just seep to the lowest depths. I don't even think it's for greed. I don't think it's for greed. I think it's a power. I think it's a spiritual situation. It is a very dark, uh, um, trying to get into the darkness, uh, to see how dark they could get, how evil they could get. Instead of wanting to be as God, I think they want to be as Satan. That I mean, really, I think that they just want to be as Satan. They don't want to be as God, right? They really just want to do, uh, eh, you know, the worst of the worst of the worst of the there's no bottom to it, right? It just is spirals downward. And so I don't want to talk about what they do. I just want to tell you how bad it is. It is so bad. And when President Trump calls them a monster, he's being kind. He's being kind because they're far worse than a monster. And so uh, anybody aiding and abetting, these generals that are aiding and abetting, failing to act, or just willful blindness, or obstruction, right? Obstruction. In our son's case, they just obstructed and obstructed. And we know that Major General Eisenhower, at any cost, approved the redoing of the arms room, which is um, the criminal uh, area, the crime scene of what happened to our son. And you can go to really Jay Pollan at the very beginning. I don't talk about Jay Pollan very often because he's just been checked off already. He already checked off his own destruction, by his own actions. There's so much evidence that we have against him for what he has done. And now with the designation for Antifa being the worst type of organization, his problems just got a lot worse. But that's as a first sergeant, right? Same thing with Michael Ruggiero, right? Michael Ruggiero. And of course, David Park. These are all been checked off. And Dallas Hart, it's just so bad. It's so bad. And um, these are monsters um, because they aided and abetted much worse than monsters. I hope that makes sense. And this is all paid for by billionaires, right? This is all allowed to happen by the billionaire leaders. And in our son's case, um, it is, of course, billionaire Woody Hunt, but it is also Governor Abbott. Okay, it's Governor Abbott, and it is the billionaire Woody Hunt who controls Governor Abbott. But Governor Abbott, um, he, to understand the structure of the United States, uh, a governor of a state has so much power, y'all. I think they're like number 5. Okay. So a governor in his own state has so much power. So if you have like the president of the United States and the vice president, I think the governor is like 4 or 5. It's really up there. They have a lot of power. And Veronica Escobar could not have done what she did if it was not allowed by Woody Hunt and Governor Greg Abbott. And we know now, because it's being covered extensively, that he is compromised, that Dan Patrick, that the Congress there in Texas, even though Texas, for the most part, is Republican, is just family oriented. They just family oriented conservatives have been fooled, have been controlled by imposters, those that are rhinos, right? Republican in name only, that they are absolutely progressives or DEI people or whatever. But I think it's more, I think they are very controlled, a lot of them, by this Mormon faction of Woody Hunt with his peers. And don't forget, his peers reach up to Utah. His peers are the Twiggs family, okay? The Twiggs family, which is where Tyler Robinson was living, okay? And in a property of they have a lot of property, okay? They're the peers of Woody Hunt. Um, and so this is really puts both Richard's case and the assassination of Charlie Kirk together. There's no doubt in my mind, after reviewing all the evidence, there's no doubt in my mind at all that, something went really wrong in this Mormon faction. Went very greedy. They're very greedy. And the foot soldiers for them are the cartel. They have used and abused um, the cartel to make them, they're, used to, this is what I've been told anyway, used to, the cartel would have some kind of level, right? Some kind of border. And what they would do, they would have some kind of markers. And I think that is, and I'm not saying that they're good. They weren't good. They were, like the Godfather, El Mayo, really uh, up to no good, right? Up to no good, but did not descend to the depths that they are right now. They were mainly substance traffickers, and now they just descend to a depth that doesn't have any bottom. Um, so uh, some something went very wrong because they've these people have been groomed to be that way, and they have initiations that are just the most horrible things in the whole world that make them subhuman. Their initiations make them subhuman into the cartel, and the economy that they've used and abused. And Woody Hunt in collaboration, and Greg Abbott in collaboration with Governor Maru Campos, the destruction of the economy plays a huge part, because it forces, when the economy is so bad, it forces people to be desperate and to join a cartel, right? To join the cartel and empower the cartel. And then they're initiated, and the initiation is oh, so low, so bad, that they become subhuman. So, like, let's say you're an elf, and all of a sudden you're developed into a orc. You're developed into an orc. It's this kind of um, grooming. And so, with the arrests of some of these foot soldiers that I just posted up today, that were caught bringing children over like they're commodities to sell them, um, and drugging them to do it with some gummies that were laced with drugs so that they would sleep, that they wouldn't, I mean, I have lots of grandchildren, so I understand that children could absolutely voice their opinion. They could protest. They could absolutely call for help. And what these evil monsters did was to drug them, and to handle them like commodities, and to sell them. I think the price was like $900 or more. And it is just like one of your lives that they pointed the Mossad. Any updates on the investigation on El Paso ISD? Yeah, well, we know those are all very good points, and I need to address them, because this investigation just is getting very, very serious. You understand that these people, um, or these monsters that are trafficking children, that are trafficking substances, that are trafficking out of Fort Bliss all the equipment, the guns, the uh, ammunition, and everything, being designated uh, these organizations. And this goes for El Paso ISD Chief of Police, Manny Chavira. Manny Chavira is a very big part in this too. He plays a very big part in this, connected with Nadal Baim, connected with Willie Moya and Arturo Alba, connected to um, um, Gustavo Sanchez of the Texas Rangers, who was assigned to our case. And But Manny Chavira, he got that position without having a peace officer's license, and he got it just days after the Walmart mass shooting, which he played a bad part in, a very bad part, okay? Because the Walmart mass shooting, that crime scene wasn't shut down, wasn't secured for over 48 hours. So Manny Chavira played a very bad part in this, a very bad. And so with these designations, because of the tunnels under the schools of those that are on the border, and up to no good, absolutely trafficking, that being confirmed. His part in the Walmart mass shooting, him taking the role of chief of police without a peace officer's license, him targeting our son, and playing a big role in what happened to Richard, him playing a role and what happened to Julio Cordero um, is really big. Keeping the name of Julio's shooter from the public, keeping the body cam footage from us, from the public. Um, Now we've exposed that. We've exposed that. Um, that is like I don't know any other that media. I don't think any other media or anything is exposing who shot Julio Cordero. Um, that is like our exclusive breaking news. I'm looking for it right now to make sure that, because we are so much information coming out. I'm going to repost it. I think it's really, really important. Anthony Ray Acuna. Anthony Ray Acuna is absolutely uh, that investigation. Let's just say he has some problems, okay? He has some problems. And they just got really big. They just got really big with President Trump doing this, especially with uh, Jaime, the old DA. What is his name? Um, It'll come to me. He was the DA during the Walmart mass shooting. He became AG. So let me repost this because I think it's really important. Esparza, right? Jaime Esparza. Um, so yeah, we're on it, right? We're on it. We're just have so much information every day. For Anthony Ray Acuna to be named is just like huge, huge breaking news because of his connections with Manny Chavira and his connections with other law enforcement that are tied to money laundering, that are tied to criminal trafficking, that are tied to this trafficking of vehicles up to no good. Um, that all got much, much more serious. I think they should all lawyer up. They should all lawyer up because the time has come. Things have absolutely moved legally into in our favor. Um, because anybody that's aiding and abetting are now at risk. So you don't have the institutional support for these criminal groups like you did at the beginning. Now that they are designated, these terrible organizations, you cannot aid and abet them. You cannot give them money, and this is what is really, really important about all this. FinCEN has now been unleashed. Okay, FinCEN is now unleashed. That's the financial investigative, criminal investigative organization where agency where they will absolutely follow the money. They will follow the money. They can absolutely confiscate. They can absolutely freeze accounts. They can absolutely, I mean, and the money is where you're going to find the big evidence, right? So, and but these billionaires, they've been very good at doing that plausible deniability. But that is also known. See, that's because President Trump wanted to designate Antifa a terrible organization back in 2019. He was talking about it. This is what their problem is. They knew there is ample proof that these terrible organizations were absolutely engaged in criminal activity on the border, and the command on Fort Bliss and the law enforcement and the judicial system in El Paso were colluding and conspiring and collaborating with the enemies, okay, and allowing um, uh, those that were doing their duty to be hurt, to be attacked, to be tortured. Um, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands of children that were trafficked. They allowed that. And what am I saying? People know all of this, and they're sick and tired of this. Um, that these so-called leaders that are in uniform, that are in the judicial system, that are in the law enforcement system with badges, that they obstructed counterterrorism, that they shirked their responsibilities, what taxpayers were paying them to do, which means that they were denying the taxpayers honest service, which is a crime. Okay, it's dereliction of duty. Also, they were. They were breaching their legal responsibilities to us, um, allowing the terrible organizations um, to do the worst things, to intimidate and threaten us. It's a psychological, asymmetric warfare that they allowed on us. They even used it on us in order to try to silence us. Um, so it, and did it take its toll? Praise God that we have withstood it, right? We have withstood it. It's been hell. It has been absolutely hell. I just want to let you know that. And even though some people are so sick out there because they're monsters that they would cheer at that, at the family, a Gold Star family, wanting the remains of their son who was murdered for being a whistleblower. People would cheer at that. They're just that sick, but I don't care. I'm going to tell it anyway that it's been hell, and that this crime cannot be allowed to go without accountability, because no family should ever have to go through this. And so what does this mean? Because it seems so big, but it's not that big. But we do need the death penalty on the table, because when you're aiding and abetting these terrible organizations, it is treason. It is being a traitor, especially when you're taking taxpayers' money as your salary. It is being a traitor, and uh, you know, uh, traitors cannot be tolerated, y'all. They just cannot be tolerated because they were aiding and abetting um, those that are worse than monsters, okay? Worse than monsters that have crossed the border to groom the likes of like Tyler Robinson, okay? The likes of Dallas Hart, the likes of, this did not happen by accident. These people were absolutely put through a training to be the worse than monsters that they are. And this is a group. This is a faction of a Mormon-led faction that is foot using the cartel as their foot soldiers. Um, Absolutely. And of course, they have the law enforcement and the judicial and everything for cover, the politicians and narco politicians for their cover. I mean, look at the Plenitude Crematorium. That oversight was Maru Campos's mother, the governor's mother, and she absolutely failed her duty, and that's in Juarez, Mexico. Now they have to deal with how they're going to answer that, right? But and President Trump needs to figure out how he's going to answer what happened in El Paso and on Fort Bliss and on Fort Hood and in the United States. And um, it absolutely, that's his, El Paso is the front door to the United States. So he's very concerned about it. He made a joke about NPR, and I posted that up. NPR um, being collaborating. Are you collaborating with Antifa, right? With Antifa, are they part of you, or you know? And that just shows you he's when you read his body language and everything, that was an intelligence brief. Okay, that was you just got an intelligence brief if you watch that. And I can confirm, we can absolutely confirm that what he's saying is spot on. It's spot on because this was a absolutely an organization that came after us that was funded. A lot of people say, "Oh, but Antifa's not organized." Oh, yeah, they are because they're funded. They're funded. And then the FinCEN being unleashed will absolutely reveal that to people that these are very similarly funded. And it's an act of war to control the United States and to control the economy of the United States. The United States has the largest economy in the world. So, of course, we are targeted, and we have been very lazy in protecting ourselves, or, yeah, because we have allowed this infiltration to take place to do so much damage, to put us in so much debt. Now you know why we're in debt because this was an infiltration of just thievery, absolutely thievery. And so these billionaires, I don't think that they became billionaires because they were selling fruit that they grew in Mexico. Okay, I don't think so. No. And being number one in military housing, having most of the military housing contracts, that's not enough either. That's not enough either. So this is very clear that this faction, this Mormon faction, that had so much power. You know why they had power? Because they have this costume on. This costume, this faction has this costume of goodness on. They cover themselves in goodness, but when you take the cover off, it's criminal. It's pretty criminal. That's what you get. And them collaborating and making a business plan out of all of this, and having the ties with the Germans, of course, the Germans that have been there for so long, and being in there with the missiles, being in there with the drones. I don't think it was any accident that Alexander Gerhard Hofmann was targeted. No way. He was targeted. Okay, he was targeted. And he was Air Force, and my parents were part of the German American club there on Fort Bliss, tied to White Sands Missile Range, tied to um, uh, for years and years and years. Um, the Germans that were brought over there, who they were, we know who they were. My parents even knew who a lot of them were that were killed years ago in a plane crash. I think 26 of them were killed, and they were all officers. Um, this group and connected to Disney, connected to Disney is ABC, right? Is ABC, is Kvia, is Kavia. This is all connected together. And so it's not a shocker when you see it in the news because these are all part of this operation that is trying to survive. They made a lot of money, not by and not by having uh, uh, Dumbo rides, right? Not by having Dumbo rides, in much other ways. But it has led them to have a cover. When you have um, all the appearance of goodness, right? That's why I'm saying they want to be just like Satan, because Satan he was this beautiful angel. Lucifer was this beautiful angel. Lucifer means of light, right? Bearer of light. Um, Lucifer was this bearer of light, with jewels all over everything, but absolutely rotten inside. Rotten inside. So you really need to be very, very careful with their deception. They're very good at deception. And I think that this body cam footage of Tyler Robinson and his mother's in there. It is a very good example of how deceptive these people are, how deceptive they are, and they're just absolutely rotten and up to no good. Um, and you have these generals, they do the same thing. They put on our beautiful uniforms. They put the beautiful stars on. They have everything that we give them, the beautiful homes and the vehicles and the any kind of thing that they want, we give them. And then they're really rotten inside, absolutely rotten. They've just violated and failed and breached and conspired, and they were derelict, and they aided and abetting the worst type of groups. They're traitors or treasonous. They did not meet their command responsibility. They obstructed any kind of counterterrorism, and they looked the other way when the worst type of crimes were happening, especially to my son and to our family. They participate in it. So they failed to act, but they also engaged in, and we have evidence for that. And this command, and this is Curtis Taylor. This is Curtis Taylor. This is Eisenhower. This is um, absolutely Sean Bernabe. So, um, and there's so many more. There's so many more. So, it's been so long, 6 years, but there's no statute of limitations in this case. So, we have absolutely um, been patient to let all the stones of truth rise up to the top, right? Let the cream rise, right? Let the truth rise like cream raises to the top, and then we know what happened, and we absolutely know what happened. And if I were like Manny Chavira or Nadal Baim, I would absolutely lawyer up. If I were the generals, I would absolutely lawyer up. And there's so many more. There's so many more because they're in real, real trouble, and they're facing so many, and they should, rightfully so, like Taylor Robinson. He is facing the what is that called? The firing squad, right? The firing squad. We should demand that those on the border that just absolutely failed in all their duties, and not only failed but also engaged in and collaborated, conspired, colluded with the enemies of the United States in the worst type of crimes that have no bottom to the darkness, to the level of evil that they would even allow, right? Because um, this is all allowed. And I would say that Governor Abbott's in real trouble. I hope that he's in real trouble because he's absolutely part of this, right? He's absolutely part of this allowing, and so is Representative Veronica Escobar. And we have to absolutely hold them to account for what they've done. I don't know who's going to get away with it. I'm sure some of them are going to get away, but many, many, many. We have a lot of evidence, and they need to be held accountable for what they've done. And I know with the arrest that just happened. And that's great news, because the more arrests we know with the cartel being arrested and the deals that have been made, a lot of information was spilled because they want to make deals. So, you can think, oh, well, they're getting away with something. They only have prison, they don't have the death penalty, capital punishment is not on their card. Well, maybe it was, and they were making deals because of the big fish and all of this and the vastness of this. Um, so these foot soldiers that were, posing as parents for children to bring the children over, they still have to, they're the sellers. They have to have buyers, right? And who is skimming off the top of this 900 per child, right? Because they have to have, it's skimmed and skimmed and skimmed. President Trump is very interested in the top, the big fish. And so are we. So are we. And we're really close, because he's mentioning Soros, he's mentioning Governor Abbott already. Governor Abbott's being mentioned in these circles. And of course, we know that nothing happens in El Paso without the permission, without the funding, without the, well, I don't want to say he funds everything, but he's the big fish, and that is Woody Hunt. Um, and um, and many, many in this case, I've said for years, um, I would be like, what's going on here? These are all like Mormons, right? Mormons are not supposed to be doing this kind of stuff. Well, they're deceptive, this faction. They're using their Mormon inheritance, I guess, their inheritance, to be deceptive. They put this face on that themselves, and really they're just up to no good, to the worst type of crimes, really vile and vulgar crimes. And when you're talking about trafficking children for the worst type of things, and I don't even want to say all the different things that they do. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And I don't think a lot of people can even imagine what they do because it's so bad that it's not even in their imagination. Um, but I'm just telling you, they're monsters or worse than monsters. And that had to come from somewhere. It just didn't happen overnight, okay? I used to live in El Paso. It didn't just happen overnight. Things were allowed to happen and things were groomed. They were absolutely funded. To groom, it costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money because you have to have power over the media, and over the schools, over the law enforcement, over the judicial. It costs a lot of money to groom evil, okay? A lot of money. And they did that. They did it. They wanted that. They were making money off of the evil and they groomed it. Um, and it's even, it's in the universities. It's in the universities. It costs a lot of money. Oh, and that was a good news too, is that the president of Texas A&M, which I was going there, I visited many times, Texas A&M, and so the president, because they've been so rotten, absolutely rotten, was fired. And so this is very, very good news for Texas A&M. I'm very happy for them. that this rotten president was fired. So things are happening, and things are changing, and things are changing legally to allow us to make our claims, and the claims will be then uh, the way the legal um, the whole designations and everything, the letters from President Trump and the Board of Inquiries, all of the legal stuff has been to our favor, and it's all coming together. And so um, that is very, very good news, because once we put in our claims, I think there's going to be a lot of answers, a lot of answers. Our big what we want, and I know they don't want it, but we want it, and that's our son's remains. So thank you so much. Let me read through everything to make sure. Luxury cars. Also, judges, my judge for the family. Yeah, and we've been putting that out there, that Sylvia Brun de Firth, she's a very big player in this too, because she was um, um, allowing the unethical judges to continue without any kind of consequence. She was protecting the criminal judges while targeting ethical judges. So this is really important, because she is absolutely with the Mormon faction, Woody Hunt, because she sits on El Paso Community Foundation board that doesn't have that many board members, as well as being on the State Commission of Judicial Conduct. So she's not going to be on there very long. She's up to no good her last days, but she's on her way out thanks to great teamwork. And so I just want, really, I'm very happy for that. But she's up to no good till the last minute. She clawing and she's gnashing. I think she's some kind. She's been also transforming into something that is really a monster, like a monster. So yeah. And I think with every arrest, they will talk, right? They will talk, and you just follow every arrest, they will talk. So, um, any updates on the investigation? Yeah. So I think I did that. I haven't seen any evidence of Mossad in our son's case, and I would say it if I did, but I haven't seen any of it. I've seen evidence of CCP. I've seen evidence of Palestinian. I've seen evidence of many different cartels, Mexican cartels. I've seen evidence of this Mormon faction to a very high. I mean, it's big. It's really big. That's the biggest that I've seen. And that was shocking. I didn't expect that years ago, but that's what I was seeing. And of course, this funeral business, this funeral grouping, this group is in the mortuary affairs, mortuary operations business. So that's what we're seeing. Other than that, I haven't seen um, the other, the FBI, like American FBI and CIA and intelligence and that. Absolutely. I've seen a lot of that. So, and they're, in our experience in 5 years, for the most part of that, they were always up to no good. So, yeah, it is. That's clear, and absolutely, I would tell you if I knew. Um, I do see the connection um, to the Charlie Kirk, and I do see our evidence um, shows the connections with the attempts on President Trump's life, the the targeting of President Trump, is absolutely connected to our son's case and to the Charlie Kirk assassination. So thank you so much. God bless you.